Introduction: the digital guillotine. It happens in the quiet hum of the early morning. You wake up, grab your phone, and tap the familiar blue bird icon. But your feed doesn't load. A stark white page appears with a single sentence: account suspended. A nervous energy buzzes under your skin. You switch apps, pulling up your YouTube channel, the one you've spent years building. A red banner greets you. This channel has been terminated for multiple or severe violations of our community guidelines. Your heart starts to pound. This has to be a mistake. You check your email, and there it is. A cold, generic message from PayPal. After a recent review of your account activity, we've determined you are in violation of our acceptable use policy. Your account has been permanently limited and the funds are frozen for 180 days. In the space of 5 minutes, you have become a digital ghost. Your voice, your community, your history, and your income, all gone. Erased. You haven't been arrested or charged with a crime, but you have been deplatformed. And you have just been executed by the digital guillotine. This book answers one central question: who holds the power to erase someone from the digital world? How do they really make those decisions? And is this new form of control becoming the ultimate tool for silencing dissent? We're going to pull back the curtain on the world's most powerful tech companies. Because what happened in those 5 minutes was not an accident. It wasn't a glitch. It was the end result of a decision made in a secret meeting by an unseen committee, guided by a hidden set of rules you never knew existed. This is the story of what really happens behind closed doors, when someone crosses a line they didn't even know was there. Chapter 1. The Trust and Safety Star Chamber. Who decides your fate? Imagine a sleek, glass-walled conference room in a Silicon Valley high-rise. Around a polished oak table sit a dozen people. They don't look like judges or executioners. They are young, bright, and dressed in expensive casual wear. This is the Trust and Safety Council, and they are debating your fate. On a large screen, they pull up one of your posts. A joke from 5 years ago that someone has dug up and framed as offensive. A recent video where you questioned an official narrative. A link you shared to a controversial article. The debate isn't about law. It's about perception, about risk, about public relations. One person argues your content violates the vague policy against harmful misinformation. Another worries about the backlash if they don't ban you. A third points out that a major advertiser has expressed concern. You will never see this meeting. You will never know the names of your judges. There is no appeal, no cross-examination, no jury of your peers. But in 15 minutes, they will reach a consensus. And with a few clicks of a keyboard, your digital life will be over. This is the new center of power in the 21st century. Trust and safety departments, once sleepy back-office operations, have become the most powerful and least accountable part of big tech. They wield immense control, using vague and constantly shifting terms of service as their weapons. Phrases like hate speech, medical misinformation, or promoting harm are so broad they can mean whatever the council needs them to mean on any given day. Think of it as a modern-day star chamber, the infamous English court from centuries ago that met in secret, with no juries, to punish political dissidents. The process today is just as opaque, and the goal is often the same: to neutralize voices that are considered inconvenient or disruptive. Here's a mini case of how it works in practice. A creator makes a documentary questioning a powerful corporation. The documentary doesn't violate any rules. But the corporation launches a massive public relations campaign, pressuring the platform to act. Suddenly, the Trust and Safety Council convenes an emergency meeting. They decide to reinterpret their policy on harassment. Now, the act of asking tough questions of a powerful entity is relabeled as a form of targeted harassment. The documentary is removed, and the creator is banned, not for a rule they broke, but for a rule that was effectively rewritten to target them. Now, imagine you are on that council. An activist group is mass reporting a user for a political opinion you personally find distasteful. A government official has flagged the user's content as problematic in a private email. A major media outlet is preparing a hit piece on your company for allowing this user to have a platform. What would you do? How much pressure could you withstand before you clicked the terminate button? These internal councils are where the initial sentence is passed down, but they are rarely acting alone. As the council debates, a new email often arrives, an inquiry from a 3-letter government agency with a list of accounts of concern. And this is where the thin line between a private company and a state enforcer dissolves completely. Chapter 2. The Government's Backdoor. Outsourcing Censorship. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is very clear. The government cannot censor the speech of its citizens. But what if the government doesn't have to? What if it could just ask a private company to do the censoring for it? This is the government's backdoor. And the Twitter files, a massive leak of internal documents from the social media company, gave us the blueprint for how it works. The files revealed a constant, friendly, and deeply inappropriate stream of communication between federal agencies like the FBI and DHS and the executives at Twitter. It would often start with a simple email. An agent from the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force would send a list of Twitter accounts to the Trust and Safety team. The email might say these accounts are potential Russian disinformation or that they amplify divisive narratives. There was rarely any hard evidence provided. It was just a suggestion, a flag. But when the suggestion comes from the same government that has the power to launch investigations, impose massive fines, or threaten new regulations, is it really just a suggestion? Of course not. It's a quiet command. This is how governments in the modern era outsource their censorship. They can't legally break down your door to stop you from speaking, so they give your landlord, the tech platform, a key and a friendly warning that you've been playing your music too loud. The landlord knows it's easier to evict you than to argue with the authorities. We saw this system deployed on an industrial scale during the COVID-19 pandemic. A coordinated effort between the White House, the CDC, and every major tech platform worked to establish a single, official narrative. Anyone who publicly questioned that narrative, even distinguished doctors and scientists, was labeled as a purveyor of medical misinformation. Consider the case of the Great Barrington Declaration, a statement written by epidemiologists from Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford that proposed an alternative approach to the pandemic. It was a scientific argument, not a conspiracy theory. Yet, internal emails revealed that government officials directed tech companies to suppress it. The document was throttled, its authors were slandered, and the public debate was artificially narrowed. This wasn't about protecting public health. It was about protecting a specific policy from criticism. The government gets what it wants, the silencing of dissent, without ever leaving any fingerprints on the First Amendment. And the tech companies get to maintain a good relationship with the regulators who could destroy their business. It's a disturbingly cozy arrangement. But government pressure is often targeted and slow. For true, scalable control over billions of users, the platforms needed something faster, something that could police millions of posts a second without human bias or hesitation. They needed the silent, cold judgment of the algorithm. Chapter 3. The Algorithm of Silence, Shadowbanning and Automated Judgment. Have you ever had a post just flop? You post something to your followers, maybe a video you worked on for days, and it gets a fraction of the views you normally get. There are no comments, no shares. It's like you're shouting into a void. You haven't received a warning notice. Your account isn't suspended, but you've been made invisible. You, my friend, have just been shadowbanned. Shadowbanning, or visibility filtering, as the platforms prefer to call it, is the ghost in the machine of modern social media. It is the ultimate tool of silent censorship. Your account isn't banned, but your content is hidden from your own followers, removed from search results, and excluded from recommendation algorithms. You are still on the platform, but your voice has been completely neutralized. This is all made possible by automated moderation systems, powerful artificial intelligence filters that scan every single piece of content uploaded to a platform. These AI bots are trained on mountains of data to recognize and flag problematic content. They can identify keywords, phrases, images, and even tones of voice that have been associated with rule violations in the past. Think of it like a librarian who doesn't burn your book. Instead, he moves it to a dusty, unmarked shelf in a locked basement room where no one will ever find it. The book is still technically in the library, but for all practical purposes, it has ceased to exist. What makes this so insidious is the total lack of transparency. You are never told that you've been shadowbanned. You are never told which post triggered the filter. You are just left to wonder why your audience has suddenly disappeared. This creates a chilling effect. Creators become paranoid, self-censoring their own work, trying to guess which words or topics might anger the invisible algorithm. These automated systems are a black box. They are so complex that often even the engineers who build them can't explain why they make a specific decision. They learn from patterns, not from rules. And over time, they learn the patterns of wrong think that their human overseers dislike. They become the enforcers of unspoken rules at a massive, planetary scale. They can determine the reach of a political movement, the visibility of a scientific debate, or the success of an independent journalist, all without a single human being ever making a conscious decision. Being silenced is terrifying, but the next layer of deplatforming is far more personal, far more devastating. It's what happens when they decide you no longer have the right to earn a living. Chapter 4. Financial Deplatforming. Closing the digital wallet. In early 2022, a protest movement known as the Freedom Convoy emerged in Canada, composed of truckers and citizens opposing pandemic mandates. They raised millions of dollars through online crowdfunding platforms to support their demonstration. It was a grassroots movement, funded by thousands of small-dollar donors. Then, the hammer came down. The crowdfunding platform GoFundMe, after pressure from the Canadian government, froze the campaign and announced it would redirect the millions in donations to charities of its own choosing. Public outrage forced them to reverse that decision and issue refunds instead. But the message was sent. Then, PayPal, Stripe, and other payment processors began to systematically sever the accounts of anyone associated with the movement. They weren't just deplatformed from social media, they were being financially blacklisted. This is the new frontier of censorship, financial deplatforming. It is the idea that if you hold the wrong political opinions, you can be cut off from the basic tools of modern commerce. For years, we've thought of platforms like PayPal and Patreon as neutral utilities, like a phone line or a water pipe. But they have quietly transformed into powerful moral arbiters. Their acceptable use policies are just as vague as the terms of service on social media. They contain clauses that forbid any activity that they, in their sole discretion, deem to be objectionable or associated with hate, intolerance, or the promotion of harm. These are not legal terms. They are ideological purity tests. Think of it this way. What if your local bank suddenly closed your account because they didn't like the political candidate you donated to, the books you bought, or the church you attend? That is exactly what is happening in the digital world. Independent journalists, controversial artists, and activist groups of all stripes have found themselves cut off from the platforms that provide their entire income. Patreon has kicked off creators for opinions they expressed on other websites. PayPal has frozen the funds of organizations for months on end, with no clear explanation or process for appeal. Why go to the trouble of censoring a website when you can simply make it impossible for the owner to pay their hosting bills or collect subscription fees? It's a far cleaner and more effective way to silence a voice. It transforms the debate from one about free speech to one about a private company's right to choose its customers. But what happens when all the companies make the same choice? You can be banned from Twitter and move to a new social media app. You can be demonetized on YouTube and try to sell subscriptions on your own website. But there is one final, devastating layer of deplatforming that is nearly impossible to survive. It's what happens when they erase your very existence from the fabric of the internet. Chapter 5. The Kill Switch. How Cloudflare and AWS Can Erase Anyone. A website that has survived it all, social media bans, shadow banning, financial blacklisting, is suddenly just gone. The URL that once led to a thriving online community now leads to a cold, sterile error page. This site can't be reached. The website hasn't just been banned. It has been unplugged from the internet. This is the final kill switch. And it is held in the hands of a tiny number of obscure but immensely powerful companies that form the very backbone of the internet. Two of the most important are Amazon Web Services, or AWS, and Cloudflare. Most people have never heard of them, but almost every major website you use depends on them. AWS is the dominant player in cloud computing and web hosting. Think of it as the digital land on which most of the modern internet is built. If AWS decides to kick you off their land, your house is gone. Cloudflare provides a different but equally critical service called a content delivery network and DNS resolution. In simple terms, they are like the internet's global postal service and address book. When you type in a website's address, it's Cloudflare's job to direct your browser to the right location. If Cloudflare decides to erase your address from their book, no one can find you. You can have a website, but if no one can get to it, it doesn't exist. For years, these infrastructure companies fiercely defended a position of neutrality. Their leaders argued that their job was to provide the pipes and the plumbing of the internet, not to police the content that flows through them. But under immense political and media pressure, that neutrality has begun to crumble. These companies have been pressured to drop service for controversial online forums, alternative social media sites, and any website deemed to be a source of dangerous information. Each time they do, a debate rages inside the company about their role. Are they a neutral utility, like the phone company, or are they a publisher with moral responsibility for the content they service? When they choose the latter, they become the internet's ultimate gatekeepers. This is the final layer of deplatforming. There is no appeal. There is no alternative platform to move to when the very foundation of your website is ripped out from under you. It represents the most dangerous centralization of power at the deepest level of the internet's architecture. The coordinated nature of these attacks, from a social media ban, to a PayPal cutoff, to a Cloudflare termination, suggests something more than just individual companies making independent decisions based on their own policies. It suggests a system, a cross-platform coordination where one ban can trigger a cascade of others, ensuring that the target has nowhere left to go. Conclusion: the digital citizen and the right to exist. Let's end with the human cost. Picture an independent journalist who has just been systematically deplatformed. Their social media presence is gone, their income is gone, their website is gone. But what's truly lost is more than that. It's their community, their reputation, and their ability to participate in the public square. They face not just financial ruin, but a profound psychological toll, the soul-crushing feeling of being erased, of becoming an unperson. This is the reality of deplatforming. It is not a simple slap on the wrist for violating a rule. It is a powerful and unaccountable system of social and economic control. It is a system built on the interlocking pressures of corporate policy, government suggestion, and the cold, automated judgment of algorithms. Throughout this book, we have asked who holds the power to enact this digital death penalty. The answer is a distributed network of power with no central address. It's the Trust and Safety Council in Silicon Valley, the FBI agent in Washington, the AI filter in a data center, and the payments executive in a boardroom. Together, they form a new kind of censorship regime, one that is perfectly suited for the 21st century, private, deniable, and devastatingly effective. As more of our lives, our speech, our commerce, our very identities, move online, our right to exist becomes tied to the terms of service of a handful of private companies. Deplatforming, therefore, raises the most fundamental question of our time. Is the ability to speak, transact, and participate in the digital world a privilege, granted and revoked at the whim of a few powerful billionaires? Or is it a fundamental human right? The system of digital control is now fully operational. The tools to erase anyone are in place. The only remaining question is what protections, if any, do we have when we are the ones who cross a line we never knew existed?